50 and 94.5 FM. Rob Thompson. Carl Schoening. Halftime.
It is halftime. Back to local programming here in San Antonio, Texas on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM if you're tuned into our frequencies. I'm Carl Schoening. He's Rob Thompson. Edwin running the show. Appreciate him making us sound good. How's your Wednesday going so far, Rob?
What's the weather like now?
Beautiful. Sun came out. It's drying up the rain, all that good stuff.
We were due. It was a long, bumpy night for those of us who slept in the still, calm, humidity of no power. Goes out at 10, comes on at what? 3:15, 3:30 for me.
Oh, good. Lucky for you.
Well, I'm not sure how lucky, because what happened was, now you woke up, never got power, which sucks. Getting ready without
8:30.
Without power getting ready, that sucks. Ours, the power went out while we were all still up, so we just went to bed and didn't turn a single light switch off. So when the power came back on, bedroom light comes on, everything comes on around the house. So it was like having an alarm, like, hey, we're back. And it happened so close to my normal alarm time, I was up. But I saw the storms rumble through. I saw a little bit of blue sky earlier. I understand we're going to be in the rain midst for the next couple of days. I'm down.
Yeah, I've been warned it could go through the weekend, so we'll have to see. If you have any outdoor plans, make sure you have some backups.
UTSA plays indoors. The Alamo Dome has a roof. 5 o'clock Saturday. Be there. Put on your orange and blue as they put down the UNLV Rebels. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, as the week goes on. But it is a Wednesday, and Wednesdays during football season, you're in this transition period. You're done looking back. You're still waiting on full practice news after a day off on Tuesday. Talk a lot about the NFL. The nitpickingness of the Dallas Cowboy outing. By the way, if you need some Dallas Cowboy news, you want to be caught up on all the things that the San Antonio Sports Star has to offer, as we're your home for the Dallas Cowboys. Great video podcast on our website right now. Carl and James Pledger, our two resident non-Cowboy fans, giving you a Cowboy update, which is really, I think, for us dyed-in-the-wool Cowboy fans, needs that sometimes. Somebody who's looking on the outside, a little bit more objective, to tell you the truth, although you guys did get a little salty.
Maybe it was the Texan fan being, I don't know, little brother syndrome of some kind, but I had to be the voice of reason. Pledge was ultra critical. I was on the thought process of, the time management for Mike McCarthy. I'll give him a pass for the Chargers game. The end of the first half, I think you guys mentioned on R&R in the morning with Rudy, it's like you take away that interception that it resulted in later a fumble in the end zone was the only score that Philadelphia had in that first half. You could be content going into the locker room 20-0 when it's offense versus offense, but all of a sudden that 20-7, that makes people think, why aren't you going for it in the final minute and a half? No, the end result of that podcast, but you should check out the whole thing, is you should feel good if you're a Cowboys fan. It was a very convincing win against the Eagles. The only real loss there is against Tampa Bay, and there's a moral victory to be had in there. And obviously, Carolina will be coming in without McCaffrey. We'll get into our Cowboys talk a little later, but that's an undefeated team that visits AT&T Stadium noon this Sunday. So a good time for the Cowboys fans to start to find a little energy after what was a rough season last year without Dak most of the year.
It is late September. Got to be back at school. You got to say that music line. Time to be a baseball fan, right? It's time to check in your baseball fandom, find your team, dive in full. That is, in fact, it's the time that we jump into baseball around here on the Star, because if you were a Rangers fan, you checked out about May. The Astros are, what's their magic number now?
They're down to one. They will play a game tonight that could clinch them the AL West. They had a come from behind victory last night, 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning, and the Tampa Bay Rays, who looked like they were going to maybe take that one in Houston, decided to just play dead there at the end as the Astros come away with a victory.
Cardinal fan continues to dance. 17 straight wins. They clinched second in a wild card spot. It's the longest winning streak for a long and storied franchise since 1892. They started the month with just a 5% chance of making the playoffs. 17 straight games gets him in. What a remarkable run. And Cardinal fan is insufferable anyway. I mean, for good reason. But now, James Cox, I'm talking to you. He's in class right now teaching. But my friends that are Cardinal fans are tough to get along with on a regular basis because they're arrogant. Cardinal fan, just for whatever purpose, they're a lot like Cowboy fan. Might not have a lot of reason to justify it, but they're arrogant. Now they got a lot of reason to justify 17 straight to run into the playoffs. That is ridiculous.
You know what's even more ridiculous is that they've hit 50 home runs this month. And surprisingly, that is not their biggest total. That's only their second most. They hit 55 in April of 2000. But to do it right now, to be hot right now, you're doing it at the right time because you don't want to peak in April like apparently this 2000 team did. 50 home runs heading into October baseball. That is phenomenal good timing. They've also hit multiple home runs in 7 straight games, tying the second longest streak in team history, where they had 9 straight in 2016. So, yeah, the Cardinals, man, talk about peaking at the right time.
No.
They did it in 2010 when they knocked off the Phillies as a wild card. The Phillies were the favorites at that time, but that was the wild card series in which Albert Pujols earned himself $250 million. And, yeah, the Cardinals playing at the right time. And we have a Brewers fan in the house. Edwin, what can you tell us about your Brewers?
Well, they clinched the NL Central on Sunday. They second division title in 4 years. And the Cardinals actually beat the Brewers to win, to make the playoffs yesterday. But for me, just the rest of the week, they're locked into the 2 seed. They're going to play the NL East winner. Just don't get hurt this week. That's all I pray. Just don't get hurt.
That's a prayer for most sports fans year round. I'll be honest, but I do understand really this week where there's nothing on the line. Just go out there and throw the people that don't have anything to lose, nothing to gain either if they're out there except maybe a good performance or two. He brought up the NL East, my Philadelphia Phillies, who I pay semi attention to. I check their box scores, but I obviously am not in their market to be able to watch games on a consistent basis. Good old ESPN gives us plenty of opportunities. It looks like the Braves are going to hold on and win after last night's ESPN game where the Braves won 2-1. So now the Phillies are 3 or 3.5 games out of that spot. So they'd have to sweep the rest of the series, win it 2-1, and then kind of hope things fall in their direction going into the final 3 games of the season when they aren't playing each other. So that race isn't quite over, but I'm not looking too optimistic as a Phillies fan, although, they're just not hitting around Bryce Harper. That's the unfortunate thing. He'll get on base, but sometimes he won't be brought around to score.
As the playoffs begin, remember, you can catch them all right here on San Antonio Sports Star, home for everything from wild card through the World Series. You'll catch it right here as ESPN, the 4-letter network, will have it for you, and we will bring it to you. But we're still in football season, and we're kicking off basketball season, so lots to get into and the things that are actually occurring now. We'll dig into the playoffs once everything is set. There's a great article we're going to dig into on ESPN. Zach Lowe did the yearly look at the Spurs, where they sit, thoughts on Pop, ideas of playoff possibilities. Are they tanking? Are they not? I think I have great respect for Zach Lowe.
He wrote a very thorough, definitive article on this team, and it's filled with highlight breakdowns or film, I should say, breakdowns of the players, and gives you an idea of what you can expect. There were some really good nuggets in there, including some rumors about the future of Greg Popovich and the Spurs head coach, potentially. The situation the Spurs find themselves in after going after some named free agents. And honestly, there's some look at even past this season into when they have salary cap space for next year. So there's plenty of things that I think if you're a Spurs fan and you don't have ESPN Plus, it's worth looking into just spending the month on the ESPN Plus because it's a great platform anyway, and that's the only way you can read this unless you know somebody who will lend you their login.
Oh, you can just listen to us. We'll tell you what he said.
We will. That's true. Yeah, well, we can't read the entire article, but we will give you a lot of the highlights. So keep it tuned in. We will get to that in a bit. But yeah, the one thing is I want to go to our Facebook Live. You can join us on Facebook Live or YouTube or sasportstar.com. Tony Gallen says, I don't see a weakness on this Cowboys team that they can't overcome elsewhere. And that's true. That Pledge was really nitpicking when he was talking about Mike McCarthy's time management. It's still only week 3, and you can improve in that at any point of your career as a coach, but you would assume McCarthy would have his idea of time management down. And really, I don't think there was too much of an issue with how he handled the end of the first half last week, because you said it on R&R this morning. What happens if they go for it and Dak gets injured and people then start questioning, why were you going for it? Just for a quick 2-minute drill to pile it on. Sure, the Eagles were getting the ball back to start the second half, but the way that game was going and how it eventually went, the Cowboys were thoroughly in control of that game, whether or not they decided to run a 2-minute drill in the end of the second quarter or not. And then special teams, yeah, Greg Zuerlein is up and down, but he's mostly up.
Yeah, I trust him, but I'm worried. You know, I'm not concerned about the moment being too big for him. He's already proven to us that he can do it, but 2 missed extra points in 3 games. I know it's not the same as it used to be. It's harder. You're a little bit further back and things, but that is of great concern. And there are some other little special teams things that are a little worrisome. Like the other night when the Eagles were desperate to get back, you knew they were coming for a punt and they damn near got it. I mean, but for a misplaced arm by a former Houston Cougar, that would have been a blocked kick. Those little things I think you could tighten up, but all in all, Cowboy fan, rest comfortably, man. If you were told by week 3 you'd be 2-1, your quarterback would be playing better than we would have possibly imagined, even right out of the gate. Your first-round draft pick has proved to be exceptional. Your running back is back thin and happy and hitting between the tackles, and your backup is doing exactly that. And your OC is calling plays like he sees the future, and your DC is filling gaps that he didn't have to fill, didn't think he was even going to have to fill on that defensive line. We don't even notice that the best defensive player on the team, DeMarcus Law, isn't even there. So, Cowboy fan, rest easy, baby. It could be a lot worse.
Oh, yeah, of course it could be worse. It could be 0-3, and if Philadelphia were a better team and the game against the Chargers goes the other way, it's at least a 1-2 situation. But obviously they're top of the NFC East, and that seems to be where they're going to stand in a path to the playoff spot. So now, as you can see, that they're probably the clear-cut team to win that division, or at least the favorite at the moment. How do they take themselves from a playoff team to a Super Bowl contender? They got plenty of time left in the season. They have 17 total weeks left in the season. They'll have 2 bye weeks, and
no, only one.
Oh, only one
bye week.
Oh, wow. I thought they added a bye week when they added 17
games.
Yeah,
they did that a couple years ago with the double bye, and it just didn't work out for anybody. It felt weird. It got awkward late in the season. Teams either didn't want to take the break or wanted the break too early. We had guys sitting down. It made the season too long, too odd. It just, one is enough.
You know what the ironic thing about all of this is? We spent, 2 months talking about, is Dak going to be okay? And then obviously when y'all were there in Oxnard, he goes down with the armpit injury, and we made much to do about that. Turns out much to do about nothing. And he, from the jump, has been just, I would say, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. You'd probably argue top 3.
No, I think top 5. I mean, there's a couple INTs, a couple of whiffs. I mean, that turnover against the Eagles was all on him.
That was a weird one, yeah.
Should have felt the pressure, and to lose the ball like that landed square. He is better than I expected. There was a couple years ago, Carl, that we might forget that when Dak came in as a rookie, the entire offense was structured to keep Dak safe. It was a wonderful coaching year. It was, for my money, Garrett's best coaching year.
Best offensive line in the league, hands down.
Absolutely. 13-3. Dak was never in any kind of worrisome situation. They never put him out in a place that might cause a disturbance in the force, and it worked well. But the concern, even after that first year, was how accurate is this guy? You can, he's getting the ball downfield, but the ball wobbled. You saw guys having to reach to their knees and jump for some balls. And we had an opportunity when we were up in Philadelphia, had a chance to sit down with Ron Jaworski, the rifle, a quarterback guru for many years. And we asked him, can a pro quarterback get more accurate? And he didn't even hesitate. Yeah, absolutely he can. I mean, that's something that can be learned. It's not born. Some guys have a more, you can't teach more arm strength, but you can teach them to be a little bit more accurate. And, there was that concern. Can Dak actually be that guy? Well, that guy 3-4 years ago to this guy, it's a different guy. He's now accurate and in control. And according to Jerry and according to everybody that's around him, he is a better quarterback, both in the huddle and in prep and on the field than he was before he went down. Dak Prescott living the dream, man.
Sometimes when you have something taken away from you, you realize how much it meant to you, and all of a sudden you're just that much better at it.
Well, I think there is that adoration, but I do think that he spent the time required to, and I hate the term, to improve on his craft, but some of the intangible things that maybe you don't spend as much time on because you're just in the day-to-day, war of a season, where he got to spend most of a season kind of reassessing other things other than his physical abilities between the lines. So I do think he is a better tape studier. I do think he sits in the room with his OC and his quarterback's coach and the rest of the QBs and does things a little bit differently. I think that's the part of the game that he went from a great quarterback that was a pretty good leader to a good quarterback that was a pretty good leader to a very good quarterback that is now a leader, the likes of which the Cowboys have desperately needed for a bit. As good as Tony Romo was, as much of a leader as he wasn't what Dak Prescott is. Dak's a man of the people, man. I think he sits in every room and is part of every kind of decision that goes along in that the hierarchy of leadership with the Cowboys. Couldn't be happier with the situation the Cowboys are. And you can tell by Jerry Jones. We all hear from him on the regular. This is a happy guy. 3 weeks in, it could not be. I don't think the Cowboys could be better positioned than they are right now.
And I always say the NFL is such a long season.
Long time.
Yeah, make sure that you don't get your expectations too high, but it's fair for you to be excited with the way the season started if you're a Cowboys fan. Take away the minute and a half that they gave Brady to make a comeback for a field goal to win it in week 1, and Cowboys are sitting at 3-0. But they gave Brady too much time, so now they're 2-1.
Moving along with the flow of the football game, that we thought that Dak offense against Tampa was great. Turns out not so much. That Tampa Bay defense was a little bit of a sieve in the defensive backfield. We got some news today that Tampa did pick up Richard Sherman. So, we thought that Dak was going to be good. We kind of took that Tampa Bay game with a grain of salt. Came out hot, maybe did some things, optioned out of a couple of run plays that maybe we could question, but hard to question 3 different games, 3 really kind of different game plans, and all of them successful, at least offensively. They're moving the ball.
Carl's Countdown.
Anyone jumped the gun? I was trying to give you the signal to pitch the countdown.
I saw him pressing buttons.
All good. No worries. Let's jump right on to Carl's Countdown then. Headline 2. This one's a fun one. Ex-NBA star Chris Webber opening a $50 million cannabis facility in Detroit. This one comes from TMZ. Chris Webber, already involved in the weed industry, he launched a $100 million equity fund with JW Asset Management to help the minority entrepreneurs in the cannabis industry earlier this year. Now he's taking it a step further, building a players-only holdings, a 180,000 square foot facility featuring 60,000 square foot cultivation, a dispensary, and a cannabis consumption lounge. The $50 million location that'll be owned by Webber and Lavetta Willis will also be a training spot that will focus on cannabis cultivation, creative content, and management, branding, and real estate. The awesome compound just broke ground on Tuesday and is expected to be finished in March 2022, with plans of expanding cultivation by 80,000 square feet later on, automatically becoming the place to go to in Detroit, probably, for a good people that are of that persuasion.
The green rush is on. A lot of money in that. A lot of legal money to be made. And I'm impressed with the fact that minority ownership has been front and center in the growth of the legalized marijuana industry across from California. I was up in Denver a couple of weeks back, and former fighting Texas Aggie and Denver Bronco Rod Bernstein had opened. He had 6 stores across the Denver area, and had a chance to go to and take a tour with him with the grow facility that he has. The minority ownership, and especially former athletes. We've talked a lot about Mike Tyson investing in the huge farm that he's got in California and the business he has in Las Vegas. There's a variety of other former NBA types and NFL types that are very big in the marijuana industry. And It's one that, you needed a lot of ready cash, and professional athletes have that. You need to be liquid, but this is an investment that is going to pay dividends for a long time. There's going to be a lot of weed millionaires that are going to become multimillionaires, or professional athletes that are millionaires because of their game will become multimillionaires because they got in on the marijuana business in these states that are just legalizing it and getting in on the bedrock. It's a great opportunity. I'm all for it.
Headline 1, Chase Young, quote, something has to change, unquote, after Washington's slow start. The Washington football team only has 1 win after 3 games, and its slumping defense, which was expected to be the backbone of the club, is a major reason why. Young continues, I feel like everybody right now, we know we just need to change. Something has to change. Right now, everybody is a real urgent holding each other accountable. At this point, it's no other way. It has to be every man on the roster holding each other accountable, working into one mission. That's where we're trying to be right now.
That sounds like a very confused second-year football player. Jack Del Rio is their defensive coordinator. He's coaching for his job this weekend. Mm-hmm. You cannot have that defense with the expectations that Washington had. Keep in mind, them that were in the know, those that thought they knew, picked Washington to win the NFC East for the most part. They were coming in with a sturdy defense. Now, granted, they lose their quarterback, and Heineke's going to had to take over. There were some issues, but that defense was supposed to carry the day, and they are awful. And it lands on you as well, Chase. You're not getting to the quarterback. We're not seeing a lot of output from you either. Something's going to have to change there really quickly. I know how Washington, that football team, works, and I know Snyder is not a patient owner. Some of these guys are coaching for their jobs if this doesn't improve.
Absolutely. And it's looking spare the Giants that they're going to be one of the bottom 2 teams in the NFC least. So if the Eagles can somehow fix it, make it a little easier on themselves, then it'll be a victory for the defense there to get some changes going sooner than later. All right, headline 0. Shams says, according to a tweet from Mike Bass, who is a NBA executive, unvaxxed players in mandated cities will not get paid.
One more step. Now, let's consider what we just heard today. So we got the protocols yesterday for the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed. And essentially, if you're unvaccinated, you're going to fall back into the protocols from last year. Everything you did last year, not going to change. You land in the city, you stay in your hotel room. You're at home, you stay at your house, double testing on game day, single testing not. Stay away from your teammates and your administration training room. You got to be as far away as you can. All the things that suck about the protocols. Well, then we hear during the day yesterday that LeBron, he got vaxxed. For friends and family, it was the wise move for him. So then the NBA ups the ante just a little bit. They find a day that if you are currently, it's only Golden State, it's only the San Francisco metropolitan area and the New York metropolitan area.
Nets and Knicks.
And the Nets and Knicks. If you're not vaxxed, you don't get to play. And the NBA says if you're not vaxxed and you can't play at home, you don't get paid.
So the Knicks are already 100% vaccinated. Mm-hmm. They said that going into training camp earlier this week. However, the Nets, there's an assumption that Kyrie Irving may or may not be vaccinated. He hasn't confirmed or denied that. He just asked for privacy, but he was not able to go to media day, so one can assume he ain't. And, that's going to be half of his paycheck gone. And then you have to wonder if Steve Nash is going to tell him, we need you out there. You are one of the big 3. And a championship doesn't happen. We saw what happened with the Bucks defeating the Nets in the playoffs. They need Kyrie Irving out there if they want to have a better chance of beating Milwaukee.
And keep in mind, this is a fluid situation because while there might not be an actual vax mandate in the towns where your favorite NBA team plays, that doesn't mean it couldn't happen during the season.
That's true.
It could come down later where maybe LA comes out of it or goes back into it. Suddenly the Lakers are part of. You got to be vaxxed to play there. What happens in Boston if there is an upheaval there? Suddenly, if you're a Celtic, you got to be vaxxed. And if you're playing the Celtics, you're going to have to be vaxxed. Just because it's only 2 markets right now that are dealing with it doesn't mean that will not be the case throughout the season.
And the NBA protocol is if you are in contact tracing, you're out a week. And if you test positive, you're out at least 2 weeks. So for unvaccinated players, in those particular cases, your value as to what you can potentially be to your team just starts to nosedive. And those are your headlines. Thank you, Edwin. But that's a tough situation for guys like Andrew Wiggins and a company like potentially Kyrie Irving, if such is the case with him, where they're making $30-something million and they're about to be cut $15 million of it. And man, come on, I got the shot. I'm feeling fine. 90% of the league got the shot. They're about to gear up for an NBA season. You know who's not doing well? Players who got COVID and are still feeling the side effects. I think Von Miller, who is just an absolute specimen of a human being, said not too long ago he still needs to have like an inhaler nearby him so he can keep his breath about him. He can't do sprints like football requires without feeling some negative effects towards his lungs.
I think Jason Tatum would say the same thing last season, that he was still dealing with it months after. And just think about what the Spurs were like when we went through that late January, February outbreak. I'm not sure Derek was ever the same after he got sick. There is far more to it than just the physical side. Most of these guys complain about the brain fog. You're just not thinking clearly. And then there's the breath issues on top of that. Yes, there are so many reasons to do it. I understand those that feel bullied, but when, it is about other people and people do it for other people, then somebody says it's about me, you understand where the anger comes from. I understand. I appreciate Jonathan Isaac at Orlando coming out and said, this is a very conscious decision. I have done my research, and he sounds reasoned. But at the end of the day, when he says, I'm not going to do it, you go, well, if you're that reasonable, how did you not reach the same conclusion that most people have? Those guys no longer have cover. Once LeBron said, I'm vaxxed, and it's for me, my friends, and my family, that was the go sign for the NBA. All right, we're clear. The king has spoken. You don't want to get vaxxed. It just got more difficult.
You're right. It does seem almost timed in that sense because Rob Pelinka hinted that he assumed everybody on the Lakers would be vaccinated. But once LeBron officially said it, it's not a coincidence that Shams the next day drops this little shocker on us and says, hey, if you're in a mandated area where you have to be vaccinated, you're going to be forfeiting a paycheck, because obviously if all of a sudden next week LA County put in similar things for Staples Center because they're about to have their season go full swing with the Kings and the Clippers also playing there, it wouldn't surprise me because LA was also one of the hot spots when this whole thing first started. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. But now that the king of LA, the king of the NBA, LeBron James, says that, yeah, it's about time that everybody else follow in his example.
And I'm a long way from bringing politics into this, but if you are concerned about, just look at the franchises that are playing in states with Democratic governors. That's the most likely place where a mask mandate or a vaccine mandate will be adopted. It's not going to happen in Texas.
Nope.
It's not going to happen in Florida. It's already been codified that it can't. But other markets, it could be an issue, if not now, at some point in the future. Again, I say to you, I say to the NBA, go get vaxxed. If we're ever going to get out of this, it's because people are getting vaccinated. It's not because of masks. It's not because of hurt or built up immunity because you got sick. You're going to have to get vaxxed at the end of the day. That's the only way we're going to get through this thing.
Quinn Hudson joins us on Facebook Live, and he says, when you think about it, Kyrie Irving has been limited with availability the past 3 seasons, going back to his failed stint in Boston. Absolutely. Yep. Kyrie had all of the potential in the world when he finally separated from LeBron to maybe going on his own MVP chase, but he's just kind of been an issue to deal with in the locker rooms. And man, the Spurs wanted him bad. I guess they might have dodged a bullet.
Quinn, whoever else is listening, jump on wherever your method is, whether you're on our Periscope feed, if you're on Facebook. I recommend you go to sasportstar.com and watch us there. I want to see right now, will Kyrie Irving get vaxxed before the first game of the season? What do you think?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. I think at the end of the day, Kyrie's going to get vaxxed. I know that KD, I've read, is trying to implore him to get vaxxed. Now, it's easy to talk about the esoteric idea of personal responsibility and personal freedoms. But I think as we get into training camp, players are now looking at their other dudes. Like we heard from Spencer Dinwiddie yesterday. Look, man, no drama here. I'm vaxxed. When I forget the other player that was talking about his questions. Oh, I think it was Wiggins. Was Jilica, the Euro guy said, dude, go get vaxxed. talking to him as he was walking down the hall. You got to get vaxxed. Now players are looking around the locker room going, are you in it with me? Do you have my back? If we're a playoff team, if we're looking for a title, if the ring's the thing, are you here to go get it? It's going to go from personal freedoms to, is the team together? And now we're going to get a little bit more peer pressure. And then you add in the very great possibility you don't even get paid for half the season if you're playing like Kyrie. He will be vaxxed and will be on the roster and playing on game one.
And at a certain point, we're going to know who is and who isn't because they have to follow protocols and they might miss games and they might have to wear a mask on the bench, so on and so forth. But the NBA is doing everything they can to keep these players safe. And that sucks for the unvaccinated players because they got to be tested once on travel day and twice on game day. And they can't go out, as it was also announced yesterday. They are treating it the same way if you're unvaccinated that they had all the protocols under last year before the vaccines were made available to the general public. So, yeah, it's gotten to that point, like you said, if you are a contender like the Warriors hope to be now that Klay Thompson will be coming back, now that they got those lottery picks in. And yeah, Andrew Wiggins, they were relying on you to be a key part of that rotation.
Can we talk very quickly about the NFL? Now, I don't have any verified evidence that it's better than it was last year, but it's better than it was last year. Have we had any
no games canceled?
No cancels. Have we had any huge outbreaks? Well, we've had a couple teams have 3 or 4 people get positives, but most of them have been back quickly. The Cowboys certainly have dealt with that, but nothing big. We haven't had everybody go home for the week. We've got outbreaks in every room. We haven't had that. The vaccines work.
Yeah.
The league is playing. There are people in the stands. It is happening because of the vaccination protocols and the levels that were required of the NFL teams to reach. When they did, we have seen that it does work. And for those that are still anti that, just look at what's happening in other leagues. It has worked. Baseball has been relatively fine. They were dealing with it worse than any other league last year. Now the vaxes are in. How often have we talked about a baseball player down for contact tracing or down because they were positive? Very rarely. It has worked. The proof is there. Go get it done.
Absolutely. And that's the key thing here. Just get vaccinated. I want to go to the Super Bowl this year. We got Radio Row lined up, and
yes,
we don't want those variants taken over. And that's what happens if too many people go around spreading it and it allows them to mutate. All righty. Well, we're way up against it. We appreciate y'all for spending your midday break with us. We got to talk that Zach Lowe and Spurs article. The Spurs slowly starting to be introduced to the media. Got some quotes to go over and some goodies from that Lowe article. Keep it tuned in here to halftime on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
BetUS.com.
Get the latest scores from all varsity sports and all the schools in the 210 anytime at 210varsity.com. Sponsored by the San Antonio Express News. While you're at the game on Friday nights, upload photos and videos to your school's page.
No way.
Plus, check out game schedules and more. 210varsity.com. From the Express News and San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Hey, guys, I'm talking to you if you're laying money, if you're a sports bettor. I've been with BetUS.com for a long time. They are my only book. I bet at BetUS.com first because, well, they're America's favorite sports book, and I'll tell you why. They've been around for over 25 years. Consider that. You don't last in this business without offering the integrity of payment on time and the longevity of knowing you're going to be around next year and the year following. Long-term customer, a long-term bettor with BetUS.com. I know I'm going to get paid. You need a sports book that offers everything. Live betting, in-game betting. Of course, that's the fun stuff. You like the props, the futures, of course, there. Horses every day, golf, esports, and everything that goes along with a well-run book like BetUS. Call them today. It's so easy to sign up. 1-800-79-BET-US. That's 1-800-79-BET-US. They'll walk you through setting up their account. It is so easy to do. Let them handle all the typing. You just talk. And when you get yourself signed up, nobody in the industry gives you bigger bonuses than BetUS. Join right now and mention KZDC. That's us here at San Antonio Sports Star. You'll get up to 200% in bonuses on your first deposit. You into crypto? They take it. Big bonuses there as well. Nobody beats that. Nobody. That's free money. I cannot tell you any better. I don't care if you're with another service. You owe it to yourself. Go to betus.com, set up the account, and use the bonuses that are available on your first deposit. They are America's favorite sportsbook for a reason. Go find out for yourself. That's betus.com. If you enter KZDC, you're going to get huge bonuses. That's betus.com, where the game begins.
Central Builders Incorporated is a family-owned, award-winning general contractor headquartered in San Antonio. Since 1989, CBI has completed over $1 billion in construction projects, including large-scale remodeling, expansions, and ground-up construction. The award-winning CBI has also been recognized by the San Antonio Business Journal as one of the best places to work for the past 4 years, and Central Builders is hiring. Learn more at centralbuilders.net. That's centralbuilders.net.
I miss my baby, someone stole my baby. By the way, my baby is my landscaping truck that was literally stolen from a job site. Baby, won't you please come home?
Owning a small business isn't always as lovely as it sounds, but with 30-plus customizable coverage options, Progressive Commercial keeps your business humming along. Get a quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
I love my sweetheart. By the way, that's my riding lawnmower.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Coverage and discounts not available for all vehicles or states. Policy terms and conditions apply.
When the doctor told us about my mom's cancer, it made me feel so helpless. Until I called the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society and spoke with Grace, who answered all of my questions about the disease, treatment options, and cancer-related expenses. Her support and compassion made us feel whole again. Today, I'm calling Grace to let her know my mom is beating cancer. To learn more, visit lls.org.
Happy Hour is back at Twin Peaks. Monday through Friday from 2 to 7 p.m. Score sweet deals like $1 off all wine, liquor, cheap shots, and freezing cold 29-degree draft brews. With select apps available for $2, $4, and $6. Twin Peaks Happy Hour is the move.
But we have a truck leaving with a big order on Tuesday.
Tina's floor manager retired, leaving her tortilla factory flat out.
What do you mean she's on a silent retreat?
She must fill the role and all those orders.
I'll oversee production.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Your parents reached for Vicks when you were little. Now that you're a parent, Vicks Children's Botanicals Cough Syrup is what you reach for to help soothe coughs and clear mucus without drugs or high fructose corn syrup. That's because it contains natural marshmallow root and ivy leaf to help soothe coughs and clear mucus associated with hoarseness, dryness, and irritants. So look for Vicks Children's Botanicals Cough Syrup, day or night formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
Listen to this station anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
This is Jerry Jones, and you're listening to the home of the Dallas Cowboys.
San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Welcome back to Halftime. I'm Carl Schoening. He's Rob Thompson. Woo-hoo. Edwin running the show, making us sound good. Appreciate him being here. Being our resident baseball expert. I'm pretty sure you might come in real good handy when October rolls around. And, I'm going to be watching a lot of baseball, but Edwin seems to be watching a lot already. So thank you for staying on top of that, Edwin. Good addition to the team here on Halftime. He'll be joining us sporadically when James Pledger decides to take a nap. So,
James doesn't sleep, by the way.
No, he doesn't. I thought that this was his opportunity for the blitz.
He hangs upside down by his toes for a couple of hours. The guy's a vampire.
Oh, that's
the guy does not sleep.
That's his workout that he Instagrams too. It's his calf workout.
It is his vampire workout. That's classic.
One of the things when training camp comes in is you start to wonder, are these guys looking over their shoulders at the new additions? Are these guys trying to take our place?
Yes.
And
you're always looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, you're always looking over your shoulder. You bring up a good point there. But so far, at least to the media, people are saying the right things. 26-year-old Jakob Poeltl, he sees young Jock Landale come in, a heavier.
Be afraid, Jakob. He's here for a reason.
So, but he says the right things. This is what Jakob said during his media availability, as this was sent to me from Jeff Garcia of Spurs Zone. Jock is doing really well. He played well in open gym, and the Spurs signed him to maybe be that kind of stretch five that Jakob has to this point not shown any potential of being. Jakob has the pop shot down. He can finish around the rim, but Landale, he shot 153s in Australia last year. He was the grand finals MVP, and he might be somebody that breaks the Spurs rotation, but he is such an unknown that NBA 2K does not even have him on the Spurs roster yet. 2K22 still yet to actually create him and insert him. And he signed a 2-year deal with the Spurs, according to reports. So, I'm really curious to see him. That'll be one of the cool things about this preseason coming up October 4th when the Jazz come into town. And then on the other side, there's a vet that could potentially be the starting four. And Thaddeus Young says, I'm coming here to help. Keldon Johnson doesn't need to worry. I'm not here to take his job. So I thought that was kind of, I thought it was funny how he said that as Young spoke out about being traded to the Spurs. And during the chat, he made it clear that he would help develop Johnson and help the squad get wins. He said, I was talking to Keldon today, Young said during a podcast with Stacey King on the podcast, Give Me the Hot Sauce. I love that name of the podcast, by the way.
King was a baller, too.
He says, I was talking to Keldon today and just telling him that I'm more than willing to pass. I am one of those guys that's going to do all the small things. Young also said, I want to make your job easier. I'm not coming here to take your spot or to take anybody else's spot. I'm coming here to help. I'm coming here to make sure we are all putting in the work together so we can get wins. I have wanted Thaddeus Young on the Spurs for a long time. And even though he's past that explosive, tweener, more of a power forward prime that he had, this might actually be the perfect time for him to be on the Spurs, to be a mentor to these young guys, especially somebody like Keldon or Luka.
Let's talk a little bit about the Spurs as they're currently made up. Zach Lowe's got a great piece on ESPN Plus looking at the Spurs. The byline makes probably the most sense. And, the question that I think we've been talking about for so long that might not be on our minds, but certainly on the rest of the country. Where is Greg Popovich going to be at the end of this season? Is he still going to be a Spur? And he looks at that. But more importantly, what did you take away? I want to find out what you felt like. Was this an optimistic article on the Spurs? From what you read, we'll get into exactly what he said, but what did you take away when you were done? Did you feel, I feel good. Zach Lowe sees some things.
Yeah, we'll get more into the depth of that in the second half of halftime. But the takeaway is almost what I have been saying this whole time. The Spurs, I've been saying on the optimistic side, will win 44 games this year. And he basically said the Spurs have developed their young guys a little too much to completely bottom out, and they're hovering around 500. They're going to be strength on the defensive end because they're not necessarily, as you've been saying, going to be able to rely on anybody to go get a bucket. That's going to have to be developed among some of these guys. We just don't know who it is.
The point there that I want to take away from is have DeJounte and Derek, we still look at them as the young dudes. But in NBA life, they're not young anymore. They are now in the midst of their career. They're maybe not halfway, but they're real close. Both of them. Derek White's 27. He's not a young basketball player. He's a young man. But the fact is, have they gotten to the point where we don't bottom out because those two are too good? And the reason I bring that up is the Thaddeus Young question, because I read the tweet yesterday. This is from a Tom Osborne article. This is Thad Young talking about how he arrived. I wasn't sure at all. I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen. But when me and Brian and Pop talked, and whatever happens at this point, that sounds like a guy that was told by Pop, hey, we'd love to have you. And if you do stay, you'll probably be our starting four. I can see that envision. And if you have a starting four with Thad Young and Derek White and DeJounte, that's 3 respectable NBA players. And I think if Thaddeus is a starter, he's worth 5 wins. He will give you 5 wins on his own for just being a starter over the season. If he's not a starter, I'm not saying we won't get those wins, but I do think it would be worth it. Are the Spurs aiming for another lottery run? Are they aiming for the same site that we saw last year, which is let's get close to the playoffs. Let's get some meaningful games down the stretch. Let's get our guys in position to play games that matter, that if you win, you'll be able to get in there. And if you do, you've earned it. Or is it, this is a tank team, a tank job, we're not ready, which I don't believe to be the case. So I'm curious, between now and the first game, where does Thaddeus run? Where does he land? Is he running with the ones? Or is he standing over coaching the threes? And if he's coaching the threes, it makes me think the Spurs are not going to start him. They're going to try to move him. And this is another year of transition.
This is a squad that is very unproven. This will be the first opportunity for everybody to step into a new role, whether that be the best player on the team, the sixth man, role player off of the bench. The only player that maybe will be able to carry over a role that he played last year was Thaddeus Young as a key contributor to a solid team. The Bulls weren't a playoff team, but they were somebody that they could rely on Thad to be a steady hand. The one thing the Spurs really are missing is a stretch four. And this is a big year for Luka Šamanić to prove that he can be that. We know he's a versatile player, but he has not really been able to prove it with consistent NBA minutes. He's going to be stepping into that role of, hey, your opportunity to become a role player at 21 years old. Sure, he's pretty young. The one question is, and this was brought up in Zach Lowe, is where does he eventually get moved? Because Thaddeus Young is already getting fielded by a bunch of calls, according to Lowe, from contenders that would love to add him for a playoff push. And if right now the Spurs aren't getting offers that they like, then maybe eventually when teams realize, yeah, we are missing a Thaddeus Young, those offers get to go a little higher. Is that a Philadelphia and a Ben Simmons trade? Is that what's been heavily rumored as a Phoenix and a Dario Saric trade? Or is there maybe another team that says, you know, we're thinking we can make a good playoff run and we're missing a Thaddeus Young, and they're just not necessarily aware that they need a Thaddeus Young here going into the season. So, yeah, Thaddeus is probably going to be the starting four, if I had to guess. If he's not, he and Doug McDermott are going to be kind of competing for those tweener forward minutes and coming off of the bench or starting, just depending on who the lineup is. And you know, you and I were talking about it off the break. Is this the year that the Spurs see consistency in minutes? And I almost think this is going to be even more inconsistent than usual, as Pop will just try and mix and match and find what works, because none of these guys have played the roles they're going to end up playing.
It's going to be a tough one, especially when, I'm not sure this is a good problem to have. Let's say Thaddeus starts. He comes on and he is the pro that we know that he is. And DeJounte and Derek show the improvement. Suddenly there's some deeper shots being made. Maybe not consistent threes, but deep twos. And this defense that is really designed for the modern game, where everybody can switch and everybody can go and run and defend the edge and double down on the pick and rolls, can do all the things that I expect them to do. What if this team suddenly starts looking, it's pretty apparent that there's no way the Spurs can win a title this year. I mean, they're sixth in line. There'd have to be a lot of bad things happen to a lot of teams to even be in the consideration. But is it a nightmare scenario that say Thaddeus does come in and play and we get Keldon in the growth that we expect him to get, as most guys do after an Olympic year, that he is now becoming this young star and will be an all-star. And Derek is, a point guard in full, and everybody's doing everything right. And this team looks like it's a 45, maybe even 50 win team, but it's really not good for the long run. Do the Spurs want to be in a situation where you might start looking toward the future and people start calling about Thaddeus after we're well on our way and looking like a low-level playoff team? Do you want to be in that situation where you make a move to make your team worse midway through, pull the rug out from underneath the young guys that are going to still be here next year knowing, yeah, we traded him, and we're going to punt the playoffs. We'll get another draft pick when, you might have some guys that might be able to win a playoff series or two. It is pop coaching. You have to always count that.
Yeah, the good thing is the trade deadline is about halfway through the season when the Spurs can decide, are we buyers or are we sellers? And what's available to buy, what's available to sell. And that will be the big question. We will get into so much more Spurs as Michael Furr asks the question, will Trey Jones be our Patty off of the bench this year? We haven't even talked about the potential Patty Mills replacement. Who knows? Maybe even Josh Primo, who shot 38% from three at Alabama last year, can eventually become that kind of player. Man, so much to get into. I love that NBA season is back. We got a couple news and notes to talk about from around the league, not just San Antonio. Stick with us here on Halftime. This is your midday break here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
The Saturday Morning Hangover. Saturdays 9 till 11 with James Pledger and Jack Thompson. Roll out of the sack as the guys recap the weekend sports and deliver in-depth takes on the weekend's upcoming action. On San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Both Texas MLB teams picked up wins Tuesday night. In Houston, the Astros needed 2 runs in the bottom of the ninth to get a 4-3 win over Tampa Bay. At Globe Life Park, most of the scoring was done in the second inning. The Rangers took a 4-2 lead and then scored an insurance run in the seventh for a 5-2 win over the Angels. UTSA running back Sincere McCormick was named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week following a 42-carry, 184 yards, and 3-touchdown performance in the Roadrunners' win over Memphis on Saturday. This is the second time McCormick has gotten the weekly award. And the SEC announced the Texas A&M versus Alabama game will start at 7 p.m. on CBS in College Station on October 9th. For San Antonio Sports Star, I'm Carl Schoening.
A deeper connection with water can change your life, and that's what the home's first smart water network does. It turns your everyday routine into a customized experience.
Moen, fill the baby's bottle.
And it can stop a catastrophic leak with a simple water designs our life. Who designs for water? Moen.
Hey y'all, I'm Grant Pinkerton of Pinkerton's Barbecue in downtown San Antonio. We only smoke prime meats with a blend of post oak and mesquite. Come see us for some of those giant beef ribs, tender brisket, and a cold big red. We have a Texas-sized bar, great selection of bourbon, and tons of local beers. I love sports, so we have plenty of screens to watch them on. We're open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner or until we sell out. Come early, come hungry, and stay late.
Panera believes in saying yes. Yes to clean, fresh ingredients. Yes to the new chicken sausage and pepperoni flatbread topped with rich mozzarella. Yes to delicious mac and cheese. Yes to putting it on a sandwich, creating the grilled mac and cheese sandwich. And yes to impromptu road trips to Sandwich, Illinois. Because that's living life to the flavor fullest. Get $1 delivery when you order on our app. Panera. Live your yes. Pricing and product availability may vary. Visit PaneraBread.com.
The pop culture event of the year, Big Texas Comic-Con returns October 8th through 10th to the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, featuring top talent from the world of movies, TV, comics, and more. Headlined by actor Giancarlo Esposito, known for his role as Gus Fring from the award-winning series Breaking Bad, and Martin Cove from Cobra Kai and The Mandalorian. Lots of meet and greet opportunities from fan favorites. Shop from vendors offering a wide range of collectible toys, comics, games, and more. Tickets and info at BigTexasComicCon.com or the Alamo Dome box office.
Jason Minix here for Alamo Water Softeners. Whether your home is a new build or an older home, Alamo Water Softeners has a water treatment bundle with special pricing to give your home the highest quality water treatment available. Choose from several bundles, including the Premier Whole Home Bundle. Get a free standard gas or electric water heater when you purchase a select top-of-the-line water softener, plus one filter and reverse osmosis system. Go to AlamoWaterSofteners.com. That's AlamoWaterSofteners.com.
Guys, stop what you're doing. Give me a few seconds of your time and let me give you a piece of advice that will change your love life forever. Have you noticed you've been losing a little pep in your step? Has your lady friend asked you, is everything okay? Do you find yourself having trouble rising for the occasion? Do you stress out before that special moment and wonder, is it going to work? Guys, I'm going to let you in on a big secret. You don't ever have to worry again. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula has you covered. Mojo is the 100% guaranteed male enhancement formula that guarantees lasting success, if you know what I mean. The Mojo Male Enhancement Formula is safe, natural, and effective every single time, guaranteed. Mojo is available in a fast-acting spray and a quick-action capsule. Do yourself and her a favor and call Pure Line Nutrition in San Antonio today. They'll get you set up for success. Call 210-494-2210. That number again is 210-494-2210. Mojo Male Enhancement, only available at Pure Line Nutrition.
Prescription products require an online consultation. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
Think you might have ED? Not sure? Well, we'd like to let you in on a little secret. ED is common. About 40% of men experience ED by age 40, but the solution is simple. Find it at 4hims.com.
I didn't have to talk to a doctor in person. There was no copay, and the medication was shipped right to my door in discreet packaging.
Hims took care of it, fast and easy. Now our love life is better than ever.
Get access to doctors online who can prescribe you FDA-approved ED medication if appropriate. The same active ingredient as name brands, but 90% cheaper. Skip the waiting rooms and pharmacy lines. Get a free medical consultation and rise to the occasion or your money back. Go to 4hims.com/radio to get your first visit free. No copay required. The only way to get this special offer is to go to 4hims.com/radio. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
A time when the boys of summer turn into the men of fall. When every pitch matters and every hit could change the game. The MLB postseason heard here. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Everything's bigger in Texas. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
It's halftime. Half one of halftime almost wrapped up, but we got a good second half of halftime. We get deep into that Zach Lowe article like we've been teasing. Yes, so many goodies that it deserves its own segment, and we'll get to that before Carl's countdown. Cowboys talk always. Our resident Texan fan, James Pledger, poked his head in. He's done a good job producing for us. He sent some sound for that we're going to have to listen to of Thaddeus Young. He joins us on YouTube where he says, "Don't ignore the victory and what you wouldn't in defeat." That sounds like a poet. Is that a Sean Rima poetry line?
Great coaches focus harder in victory on the negatives than in a loss. A great coach will take a win and go, you think you won? You won. Look at what you did wrong. It's a lot easier to coach from strength. So I completely buy into it. I don't know how this applies other than to the Dallas Cowboys and the halftime prep with the clock or with the Spurs. I think that the Spurs are guilty of that to a fault. I think the Spurs focus on the negatives in victory to a fault. I think Pop is such a great coach that he can't get past. Sometimes you just win because you won. That you just knew how to do it. And let's move on to the next one. I appreciate the saying. I don't think it applies in every instance, though.
Yeah. What is this that Jonathan C. says on YouTube? The human head weighs 8 pounds.
Jonathan Lipnicki.
All righty. Well,
that's a great quote, by the way.
Well, I guess we'll talk about those kind of philosophical questions of life and sports. I remember one time Will Hardy was coaching the summer Spurs. He was coaching them in Utah before Becky Hammond took over and coached them in Vegas when she won that year. And our good friend Jabari Young asked, "What kind of grade would you give yourself after going 2-1 in Utah?" And he was like, B-. And Jabari's like, "Really? Only B-?" And he's like, "Some parents grade harder than others." So yeah, you gotta be hard on yourself to improve sometimes. Other times, maybe you're like me. It's like, hey, did a good job today. Do a better job tomorrow.
A win is a win. Don't look at it in the face. Move on.
Hey, thank y'all for sticking with us here. This is halftime, and this is San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Here we go. The Dallas Cowboys live here all season long. Every snap.
I love it.
Every catch.
Let's go every day, huh?
Every touchdown. Plus, we'll give you the complete breakdown and preview of every game from our experts. Dallas Cowboys insiders and head coach Mike McCarthy. We're all fans.
Yeah! Yeah!
Hear the call from Brad Sham and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Right here on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Many people who are vaccinated are getting sick from COVID. Fever is the leading sign of COVID, so everyone needs an accurate thermometer. Exergen temporal scanner's accuracy is backed by more than 100 clinical studies. Non-contact devices can miss fevers and give false sense of security. Remember, vaccines may not be enough, and you need an accurate thermometer to stay safe. Exergen.com.
Exergen is changing the way the world takes temperature.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
There's never any FOMO with the iHeartRadio app. You won't ever have to miss out on your favorite shows and contests with this radio station again. Radio 24/7, 365. We're here when you want us. Stay connected and listen anywhere when you download the free iHeartRadio app.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company presents
And Doug. And we're back with Limu, Emu, and Doug for the final question. Category is things you climb. All right, Limu, what do you think? You sure? We're going with Liberty Mutual customizes your car insurance so you only pay for what you need. Oh, so close. We were looking for stairs. Huh. Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Did you know that United Healthcare helps connect you to doctors and therapists with 24/7 access to virtual care?
So I could have therapy from my couch?
Yep.
Or a doctor appointment from my car?
If you wanted to.
Wait, you're right. I don't even like when people see me sing in the car. Couch appointment it is.
Virtual visits are just one of the ways United Healthcare helps connect you to better health. Learn more at uhc.com. Plan benefits may vary.
1911 Cigars is the premier cigar lounge in South Texas, providing quality, affordable cigars in a professional, inviting environment with a large covered patio with TVs. A BYOB establishment, 1911 Cigars strives to allow the avid cigar connoisseur a comfortable place to relax, socialize, network, and of course enjoy a great cigar. 1911 Cigars is available for private events and has private cabanas with TVs, fire pits, and heaters. 1911 Cigars at 207 South Main Street in Cibolo. Online at 1911cigars.com.
Central Builders Incorporated is a family-owned, award-winning general contractor headquartered in San Antonio. Since 1989, CBI has completed over $1 billion in construction projects, including large-scale remodeling, expansions, and ground-up construction. The award-winning CBI has also been recognized by the San Antonio Business Journal as one of the best places to work for the past 4 years, and Central Builders is hiring. Learn more at centralbuilders.net. That's centralbuilders.net.
But we have a truck leaving with a big order on Tuesday.
Tina's floor manager retired, leaving her tortilla factory flat out.
What do you mean she's on a silent retreat?
She must fill the role and all those orders.
She's gonna oversee production.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Schedule virtual interviews and talk to candidates right from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Your parents reached for Vicks when you were little. Now that you're a parent, Vicks Children's Botanicals Cough Syrup is what you reach for to help soothe coughs and clear mucus without drugs or high fructose corn syrup. That's because it contains natural marshmallow root and ivy leaf to help soothe coughs and clear mucus associated with hoarseness, dryness, and irritants. So look for Vicks Children's Botanicals Cough Syrup, day or night formula. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
These are the final days, the final hours of Diamonds Direct's incredible finance offer. You have until Saturday at 6 p.m. to take advantage of 5 years zero-interest financing. That's on any purchase. Buy now. Spread your payments over 5 whole years with zero interest. Response has been incredible, but this amazing offer comes to an end on Saturday and will not be extended. Don't miss the year's best buying opportunity at Diamonds Direct. 5 years zero interest through Saturday at 6 p.m. Get directions, details, and more now at diamondsdirect.com.
One team, one mission. KZDC, San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN, AM 1250 and 94.5 FM. Rob Thompson, Carl Schoening.
Halftime. It is halftime here on San Antonio Sports Star. Half 2 of halftime. Thank y'all for sticking with us here as we have local programming in San Antonio, Texas. during the midday. I'm Carl Schoening. He's Rob Thompson. Edwin making sure we sound good. You can also hit us up on YouTube or Facebook Live if you are not joining us on our frequencies, AM 1250 or 94.5 FM. Rob, we spent a lot of time talking Spurs, but really we have not gotten into the meat of this Zach Lowe article on ESPN Plus, and it's worth going into because it's a really well done article. The Spurs fans usually complain they don't get love from the national writers, but I don't think I've seen a more in-depth article on a team on ESPN than what Zach Lowe has put forth as he really kind of recaps where the Spurs were before this, how they got to this point. He even gives us some tidbits about the Kawhi Leonard trade, how the Spurs turned down several first-round picks to go with a pairing for LaMarcus Aldridge and DeMar DeRozan, showing that Pop wasn't quite ready to just go into a full-on rebuild back when I think it was DeJounte's third year and Derek's second year and Lonnie's first year kind of range. So really, the thing that kind of intrigued me most is, everybody's a little stingy with their assets in all sports, especially the NBA. The first one that made circulated news around the Twitter sphere is that the Spurs turned down first-round protected picks for their young guys from multiple times across the league. So on the bright side there, the Spurs like their guys, and they're not in full just asset acquisition. So instead of getting all these first-round picks, they're going with the guys that they've already drafted. And also on the other side,
I do think the line that Zach wrote regarding the Spurs and talent acquisition, he said the Spurs are nearly allergic to trades. And that's to their detriment, I do think. I understand going with what you know and development and those kind of things. And certainly the Spurs weren't in a position to need to trade for something to improve themselves during the season. And why take on bad money after good? I can see all the arguments against making moves. But there are some times that the deal is appropriate. I'm not saying they passed up on anything here, but the idea of built, not bought is so difficult to master. The Spurs were successful of it because they managed to draft 5, yes, count them 5 Hall of Famers over a 20-year span. 5, that's unheard of. So you can give all the credit to scouting and all of that, but a lot of luck landed there. You got to be in a situation to be available to trades. Now let's look at what Oklahoma City did and compare them to what the Spurs said. We're going to go with what we know. We're going to hold on. We're not going to do anything to move the guys. Oklahoma City moved everybody and bankrolled draft picks for a decade. They got ones. How many more number ones? 17 first. And you know what it's turned into so far? Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. Yeah. That's what it's turned into. And when you look at the teams that we know are going to be worse than the Spurs, the first team that comes to mind is Oklahoma City. So you don't want to be that. You don't want to continue to bankroll future picks and get nothing from them. But I do think Zach makes a point that because the Spurs are so absolutely allergic to making a deal, that they're going to have to find a way to be successful with the guys they've got, and they've got no stars. And they didn't improve the primary problem in most people's eyes. They're not that much better shooting. Did they go get a shooter? They got McBuckets, and they got Bryn Forbes back. But it still doesn't feel like that's a shift until we see what Chip England's work was done over the offseason. If they can improve their shooting, then I'm down with everything they're doing. If we can up our three-point percentage and just become a bit of a threat, then we're moving forward. But if the shooting isn't improved, this could be a long and difficult season.
And that was something that Lowe points out here is where's the shooting going to come from? Obviously, if you play somebody like Bryn Forbes, that's to the detriment of your defense. Will players like Lonnie Walker and Derek White improve on their three-point percentage, which is why, according to Lowe, that the Spurs have been hesitant to play them with DeJounte Murray, who also has been improving as a three-point shooter to his own, his own work ethic. But all of those guys need to improve as three-point shooters. Keldon among them, as he was sort of the stretch 4, small ball 4 that the Spurs had running at the starting 4 a lot last year. And Yeah, the one thing is, though, I will go back to what you were saying. The Spurs, they tried to make some interesting moves this year. So the Spurs, according to this Zach Lowe article, the Spurs talked with the Philadelphia 76ers about Ben Simmons, but those talks have not gotten far, sources say. They sniffed around the intriguing young free agents, including Lowry Markkanen, who said on a Finnish podcast that he actually agreed to a trade with the Spurs. So we'll never know what happened there. And John Collins, sources say, and if you look at it, Collins signed the 5-year, $125 million deal with Atlanta to stay there. And Trae Young basically recruited him to stick around. But it is nice to know the Spurs are going after those guys. And then he says 3 of the Spurs' young players aren't so young anymore. DeJounte Murray, probably the Spurs' best player, and we've talked about that. Who's the Spurs' best player? Just turned 25. Derek White's 27. And Lonnie Walker will soon be in for an expensive extension. And then Jakob Poeltl is 26 in 2 weeks. So yeah, geez, to hear the 25-year-olds aren't young, but there's still plenty of time left in their prime before you say they're on the back nine of their career, which I'll give them. But if we fast forward ahead in this article, he's basically saying, okay, the Spurs are too good now with the young players they've developed to bottom out entirely. He says the short list of teams that he expects to be worse than the Spurs are the Magic, the Pistons, the Rockets, which is an interesting take because they're going to be pretty young themselves and they're going to be in a developing, rebuilding year. So I can understand that. And of course, the Thunder, who you were mentioning. I might even throw the Timberwolves in there, although the Timberwolves are in the same situation as the Spurs where they've accumulated all this talent, and it's time for them to do something about it as well. As Karl Anthony Towns, you look up, he's 26 years old, and he's only made the playoffs with Jimmy Butler. But, you know, it goes into like what the Spurs are. It has a lot of good film breakdown, but man, he even goes ahead and says moving forward, the Spurs are potentially in the mix for a Jaren Jackson Jr. If the Grizzlies aren't going to play with his extension, the Spurs will be able to sign him, which is interesting because you and I were talking about maybe a Zach LaVine potentially coming next year. The Spurs will have that kind of money. The Spurs are projected to have the most salary cap space going into next year. So it's an interesting conversation where this is almost a stopgap year. See what you have, because everybody will be going into a new position. Maybe their value will rise a little bit and there's some trades to be made, or maybe they go backwards and they do get that higher than 10 lottery pick, which a lot of Spurs fans are saying that they should go after. If the Spurs essentially say at the trade deadline, okay, we're not going to be in playoff contention, or if we are, we're looking at maybe a play-in game, which is 7, 8, 9, 10. Just be sellers at the deadline. Okay, you acquire a few more picks at the expense of some of your players that will be coveted by these teams at the trade deadline. That makes sense, right? Because maybe Pop is sort of the thought process, let's get back to being contenders as quick as possible. And somebody like Thaddeus Young can help out the Suns, who need that starting forward. Then on the other side, if the Spurs do end up in that 5 to 8 range, they miss out on their pick of the draft. And it might not be the double draft that we were expecting it to be, because next year could be the year they lift the one and done rule. But it seems like we're not going to be able to draft 18-year-olds. And that could be another situation where having that 5 to 8 is not necessarily the best thing either.
Well, I think if they make 5 to 8, the drafting process of the rebuild is done. If this team is capable of being a 5, 6, 7 seed without a star,
draft pick.
I thought you were talking about getting into. If this team can get themselves legitimately into the playoffs, the rebuild through the draft is done.
Okay.
I mean, then that extra money for free agency will come into play. Then you start becoming a buyer in preparation for playoff success. We've talked about how the Denver Nuggets managed to get there, and they got lucky. They ended up with a Jokic in the second round, but no more lucky than falling ass backwards into a number 1 pick with Tim Duncan when you already have David Robinson. I mean, you have to get lucky to get there. But they went through a period of getting close and failing, trying to, fix around the edges, but really not adjusting. And it got to the point 2 years ago where if we don't get into the playoffs now, It is time to look at the makeup of this team and start breaking away some of those pieces that we thought would be foundational. Spurs aren't there yet, but if we do find that this team is defensively strong, that they are great in transition, that they can do some things to the very good teams, at least on the short term, to win some games, and then we're looking at a 45 to 50 win team, which I do believe probably puts you a 6 or 7 seed. I think that part is done. I'm not worried about the lottery anymore. We got the young guys we need. Now it's time to go get the guys that are going to win those extra 6, 7 games to get you in the home court and get you in a position to win a playoff series and hope, that you stay healthy and all the right things happen to get you where you want to go. Like the Clippers benefited from injuries everywhere else. Just be there at the party, and you might end up with the girl because everybody else has to leave. So I think we're almost there. But the defense is going to have to get us there. If the defense is capable of switching and doing those kind of things and manufacturing some of the offense that we are still woefully going to be without, we're going to have to find the old school threes. We're going to have to get the and ones at the rims as we attack to the rim. We're going to have to make sure that we have some space in there so those guys can go, the likes of Lonnie and Keldon, which there's a great line. Zach Lowe wrote that Keldon Johnson attacks the rim like it had done something to his mother. That is a man, and that's one of those things that will get those extra points that we're chasing. We're going to get the threes, but you can manufacture them with and one at the rim, just like you could with a 3 natural. So there are some ways to get the offense. A lot of way between here and there. And you think about guys that need to be great. You expect that Derek will be Derek, that DeJounte will continue in his growth. Luka and Lonnie. When you look at this roster, if Luka and Lonnie can make the progression that we think that they're capable of, both of them are in, it is make or break time for both. Luka, if you're going to be a long-term Spur, if you can be that stretch 4, will be that much better. Lonnie, if you can take this furious attack at the rim, this athleticism, and turn this into mistake-free buckets, the Spurs will be where they need to be. We won't need to worry about draft picks. We won't need to worry about lottery picks because will have proven that they're on the roster.
So I was going to actually ask you that and go the other direction. I know you say this is the time for Lonnie and Luka to show us what they got, and they're basically going to have their best opportunity as we see it this upcoming season. However, let me go the other way and say that this is maybe a Derek and DeJounte opportunity to solidify their spots as the leaders and the best players on this team, because listen to the players the Spurs have at 23 and younger on the roster. Zach Collins, Joe Wieskamp, a two-way player, Lonnie Walker, Devin Vassell, Luka Šamanić, Trey Jones, Keldon Johnson, Josh Primo. So is this maybe a young group of players that the Spurs should start looking to build around? Not that DeJounte and Derek can't be the leaders on this team, but those are two players that can help contenders if the Spurs do find themselves in a situation to be sellers at the trade deadline. And then you're talking about opening up a really big opportunity for all of those guys that are 23 and younger to really be the future of the Spurs franchise. And then that would be potentially a team that hasn't quite matured enough to be a playoff team, and then you're bottoming out, because that's what Zach Lowe is saying. The Spurs, with their 2 best players and some of their guys like Jakob Poeltl, they're too good on paper to be a bottom 5 team.
As we sit, they are. And we always have to consider the fact, now we can talk about has the game passed him by or anything. This is the greatest NBA coach any of us have ever watched work. And Pop is worth those kind of wins. So to say, are you going to tank with those bad guys? Well, he's good enough to get these guys to win. He's good enough to get them there. So if we're close, Pop tips to the scale. I will say that if we do see an exit from DeJounte and Derek, that means it is full on tank. It is full on all but over. And getting 26 wins, if the move happens early, Pop might have to coach another year just to get the 27th.
Man, we're burying the lead right here, because Zach Lowe actually talked about the potential future for the San Antonio Spurs, and he said that Greg Popovich, rumors are kind of swirling around that he'll be around next year, although he also prefaced that with nobody knows what Pop's going to do after this year. So it seems, according to Zach Lowe, that Pop isn't in it for the 26 wins away from breaking Don Nelson's record for regular season wins. If you count playoffs, Pop already has the all-time record. So, maybe he doesn't really care about that as much as we think he might. I know I would want to break that record. But Will Hardy is mentioned as a potential future Spur. He kind of gets mysterious and says Becky Hammond last among the names, and then says, but there could be somebody else lurking around. Brett Brown was brought up. I would love to see Brett back in the NBA. So there's opportunity.
You left off one that he said has drifted out of prominence, and that was Bill Self. I will continue to advocate that Bill Self will be in the final conversation to be the next Spurs head coach. I'm not sure he'll get it, but that Kansas connection still looms awfully strong.
It does, but I want to go back to that point I was making about the younger Spurs. All those younger Spurs started at the changing of the guard when R.C. Buford became the CEO of Spurs Sports and Entertainment, and Brian Wright became the GM. And I don't think Brian Wright has the same relationship as R.C. Buford had with Bill Self. And that's where the real relationship is.
Pop, too. Pop coached with him, too.
Of course. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're there in the summers. There's still a constant and ongoing relationship between the two entities. They are. Bill Self plays a role in things that Pop's doing, and I'm sure that they talk about things that Pop coaches that Kansas does. I don't think it's as likely now, but there's still some – we don't have enough time, but there's still some issues at Kansas that could force Self to leave in the long run anyway.
Well, as soon as those issues with Les Miles kind of came up, they did a little PR and said, hey, Bill, we're just going to give you a lifetime contract.
Yes, sir.
You can retire when you want to in this job. And that's a nice gesture from the Kansas AD, as they should probably go down to an FCS school if they want to have any success in football. Catch up. You can join us on Facebook Live or YouTube, and we like to catch up with those comments here, as Michael Furr asks, is this a make or break season for Luka? No, I think this is finally an opportunity for Luka.
Make or break, man.
Next year will be the make or break year. As 4-year player, give him his opportunity to be 23 years old. He's only 21 years old. I can understand why patience might be wearing thin, but if he were a draft and stash guy that was just brought over right now, people wouldn't be having the same impatience that they have with Luka at the moment. Frank Valdez says, have plays for every Spurs guy, bring something different, swing the rock, good pass to a better pass. If they set each other up to play for each other, it will be a good season. And that's really what the Spurs need, is to be a beautiful game type of team, and that might be able to squeeze them to their potential. That's something else that is brought up here in the Zach Lowe article, is he seems to think the Spurs don't really have the shooting to be able to create the north and south opportunities, so it'll be a lot of east and west on the basketball court.
Which is going to be hard to watch. That's when turnovers happen. That's when you're running the skip pass. That's when dumb mistakes happen. The side-to-side, find the open, and we're desperate to find a wide-open three is not the way the Spurs need to go. That could be the detriment to the team when you only have probably one shooter on the court at any given time, whether it's Forbes or McBuckets moving back and forth. And maybe Zach can help that, but the lateral passing game is not where the Spurs want to be. They don't want the clock to slow down. They need more possessions. So there is that catch-22 of, if we're having to manufacture and do the beautiful game, do we have enough time on the clock to get enough possessions to keep up with a three-point shooting team? And I don't think that's the prescription.
And that's the real question there is, will these young guys that will have to step into volume three-point shooting roles be able to hit them at a above league average pace? You would hope that Luka Šamanić can, although that's a little questionable because he only shot 29% from three in the Gubble last year. So hopefully he's been working on his threes. Devin Vassell will have a bigger role. I could see him being an above average three-point shooter. Dark horse, Josh Primo. It was brought up by Michael Furr earlier. Who becomes the new Patty Mills on this team? Is it Trey Jones? Is it Lonnie Walker? Is it maybe Josh Primo or Bryn Forbes? We don't really know who's going to be that kind of energy scorer off of the bench. My guess would be Lonnie, but it's going to be a wide open. Man, is this the biggest preseason the Spurs have ever had?
Well, it's a It's not the biggest because we don't have a lot of expectations. I mean, we don't have, if everything goes well, we could win a championship.
Most
but I do think
I should say
this is a pivotal point in the Spurs history. We're going to either go right or left. There is a fork in the road. We've reached it. We're either going to go this direction with the guys we've got, or we're going to go with the guys we've got and move to go get a star. We're going to figure out if that works. It's not the biggest, but it's one of the most pivotal points that we've had since 1996.
That's true. And you know, the weirdest thing about all of this is the Spurs training camp roster is 17 guys that are guaranteed and one two-way guy in Joe Wieskamp. So there are no exhibit 10 guys. There's no, okay, this guy's most likely going to get cut, so he's going to play the garbage minutes in the third and fourth quarter. This is a legitimate, everybody that plays could most likely be on the team the entire preseason. And that's a first in my memory, because usually the Spurs are signing those guys that it's like, hey, we like you, but you know, you're going to have to improve your game before you really get a chance with us. And this year, we're curious who they're going to have to cut because all the contracts are guaranteed. So yeah, it'll be interesting. Hey, we know we're past the time for Carl's Countdown. We'll get into it on the next break. It will be here. So you want to stick around here. We love the Spurs talk. That was a great segment. It's a great article. Check it out on ESPN Plus with Zach Lowe. This one made me chuckle during the show. Jonathan C. says, James's profile picture makes him look like Tom from MySpace. I don't know if you get that reference. That's
lost on me.
It really does, and that's why it made me laugh. I hope Pledge
I had a
laughed at it as
MySpace
well.
page, though.
You did? The guy who invented MySpace, Tom, he got out of there without any guilt. I don't know if he saw what was coming from social media, but, man, he sold MySpace to a music company. I think it was Justin Timberlake, and, oh, man, he didn't have to deal with the court hearings that Zuckerberg has to deal with.
Or the billions.
Yeah, well, I think he got a good $500 million, so, you know, I wouldn't turn down $500 million from a little afternoon internet project called MySpace. All righty. Hey, thanks for spending your midday break with us. Carl's Countdown here when we have the headlines that you want to know in the 210. This is San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Didn't catch R&R in the morning? Here's what you missed.
Why don't you just be that guy and wear the knee brace?
I can't. I'm not going to be that guy. How about the copper fit? That's snake oil, man.
I don't feel like it's fake.
Yes. Those commercials with Brett Favre and Jerry Rice wearing back braces and elbow. No, you're just selling product, man. And as soon as they walk off, they got some kind of weird little razor that does your nose hair and your pubes. I'm sorry, dude.
Rob Thompson, Rudy J. Weekday morning 7 to 10 on San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
At Manrique Custom Vision, you'll find some people just aren't good candidates for Z-LASIK. That's why they have different technologies for different patients. They are a custom vision center focused on helping people get rid of their glasses and contacts. Rudy J here. Call them today for a complimentary consultation to see what's right for you. Financing is offered to all FSA and medical spending accounts accepted. Get treated like family by Dr. Manrique. Call 354-2020 for the Manrique difference. That's 354-2020.
Working from home, you realize you don't have enough outlets or USB ports. Hill Electric can fix that for you. For over 3 decades, the family-owned Hill Electric has served San Antonio homes and businesses. From adding an outlet, fixing that fuse that always blows, or that flickering light, Hill Electric has the right service at the right price, and there is never a service charge and always free estimates. Call Hill Electric at 210-404-9074. That's 404-9074. Or go to hill-electric.com. Your source to local news and sports in San Antonio begins with the San Antonio Express News. We've collected, written, and shown the stories that matter most to San Antonio. Look no further than the San Antonio Express News to continue to provide information and strength to the community. Whether it's on the field or on a court, we provide the ground local coverage. Go to expressnews.com for the most up-to-date high school and college sports coverage. Subscribe today at expressnews.com.
Meet Bob Monetti. In 2016, he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Bob participated in a clinical trial that included cutting-edge radiation therapy and surgery. He's been in remission since completion. I'm Keisha Sharp. Since losing my mother to pancreatic cancer, I've been working to share the kind of state-of-the-art work being done by Stand Up to Cancer and Lust Garden Foundation. To learn more about the latest research, including clinical trials, visit pancreaticcancercollective.org.
Want to learn a new language so it will actually stick?
Try Babbel. Practice real-life conversations in the Babbel app.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas?
Get personalized help in Babbel's live online classes.
Classes are limited to 6 people, so everyone can get the help they need.
Review words and phrases with fun games, or dive into the culture with short videos. Whatever your learning style, Babbel gives you the tools you need. Babbel, more ways to learn. Start learning a new language today at Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
I struggled with symptoms like frequent gas and stomach pain for years.
I was bloated all the time with daily diarrhea.
At first, I thought it was what I was eating.
I kept thinking it was stomach issues.
So I did my research and talked to my doctor, and we finally uncovered the truth.
It was actually EPI. Exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI, is a condition where your pancreas is unable to help break down your food.
It can lead to symptoms like diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, unexplained weight loss, and oily stools.
And EPI symptoms can be confused with those of other common digestive conditions, like irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's, and celiac disease.
So getting to the right diagnosis meant being more open with my doctor about the severity of my symptoms and how often they were happening.
But there's good news. EPI is manageable, so don't wait any longer. Use the symptom checker at identifyepi.com and schedule a visit or call with your doctor to ask, could I have EPI?
Sponsored by AbbVie.
If you can't sleep because of annoying knee pain, that's a problem. If you stop running because your feet always hurt, that's a problem. If your elbow, shoulder, and neck pain make it impossible for you to do your job, that is a problem, and it's time to finally do something about it. I'm Dr. Jason Garrett from Arasti. At Arasti, we fix pain fast. No medications, no injections. Arasti treatment is completely natural and non-invasive. Plus, we accept most insurance plans. There's a location near you. Visit Arasti.com. That's AIRROSTI.com. Arasti, we fix pain fast.
Rob Thompson, Carl Schoening. Halftime.
How's your lunch going? Going through the drive-thru, grab me a milkshake. I want chocolate. Make it not too thick and get me a spoon. Hope your Wednesday is going fine. As you're heading back to the office, you need to be completely informed. We got to give you the headlines that you actually deserve. It's time for the countdown. What you got, Carl?
Carl's Countdown.
Headline 2. Hey, Rob, I know a Cowboys fan like you has $2.2 million just laying around to buy a mansion and a dinner date with Emmitt Smith. If you can buy his house, the legend will also throw in a meal with him.
I'm not here to cast aspersions on Emmitt Smith. He's the greatest running back I've ever seen play. But in my brief, and I've had several encounters with Emmitt, Emmitt is cheap. Emmitt knows every penny he's ever made. Emmitt does not spend money frivolously. I have a feeling his house has been on the market for a bit up there in North Dallas. He's probably had it for quite some time. It's on the market for what, $2.2 million. And he probably bought this house back in the mid-90s, probably his first. Nice place, 5-bedroom, big old. And his realtor probably came to him and said, look, man, it's not worth what we thought. Let's drop the price. And Emmitt said, no, let's give it one more shot. Keep it at 2.2, and if they buy, I'll go to dinner with them.
You say he's cheap, so you thinking this meal, it wasn't specified in the TMZ article, is maybe McDonald's
I think
or fast food?
I think he'll spring for a fine meal. He'll spend $1,000, but he'll spend $1,000 to make an extra $500,000 on that 2.2 million instead of going to $1.8 million. Let's keep it at 2.2, and I'll take him to the finest restaurant in Dallas and still come out ahead. This is an interesting ploy. I mean, who wouldn't want to have dinner with Emmitt? But I'd rather have a discount on the house. Why don't you knock a couple $500,000 off there, Emmitt, and I'll buy you dinner. How's that?
Yeah, I guess that'll be a nice little addition if you can just buy him dinner.
I'm going to tell you a story
$500,000.
about Emmitt Smith. This happened in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. We were in Atlanta, and it is, Emmitt represents and works with Herradura Tequila. And every year he has an Emmitt Smith barrel of tequila that he will give away to different press types. And we get a bottle of tequila every year. He comes and sits with us at the Super Bowl, and Minix and I take turns getting the tequila. So he had the tequila with us. He brought it and gave it a nice, pretty bottle of Herradura. No, is it? I don't want to misplace his brand. But anyway, good bottle of tequila. I think it might be Cuervo that he does. It's silver. It might be a Cuervo
Yeah,
silver.
that sounds right.
I think it's Cuervo silver. So he sat down and we did the whole interview and he got up and left us the bottle of tequila. And the next guy we happened to run into there in Atlanta was Pat Green. Musician Pat Green was walking around. Hey, Pat, why don't you sit down and talk with us? So Pat Green sits down and talks with us about 9 a.m. Jason Minix and I have a nice conversation with Pat. He gets up and leaves and we're high-fiving. It's been a great morning. We've had Emmett. We've had Pat Green. And we sit around and look around for a little bit and find that this was my year to get the tequila, was gone. Pat Green stole a bottle of tequila off our table. Now, we since tracked him down, and he was running around with a radio guy up from Dallas, Randy Galloway. He said, "No, Galloway took the tequila. I was just there. I was the cover." So Emmett, we called Emmett to say, "Hey, man, we lost our tequila. He wasn't going to give us any more. That was the only bottle we got." So I blame Pat Green for my down year with tequila. Emmett is a wealthy man. You don't get rich by spending money foolishly. He ain't going to discount his house unless he absolutely has to.
You see, if I ever made money like that, I'd probably be on the next 30 for 30 of broke.
You either find the value of the money very early or you never get it. One or the other. You spend it all, you keep it all. Very rarely is it in the middle.
All righty. Well, moving on. Headline 1. The Chicago Bears move closer to leaving Soldier Field, sign and purchase an agreement for Arlington Park property. As the Bears announced on Wednesday, they signed a $197.2 million purchase and sale agreement with Churchill Downs, Inc. for the 326-acre Arlington Park property in suburban Arlington Heights. I assume that's outside of Chicago and not Arlington, Texas. Obviously.
No, it is obvious. Arlington Heights is, it's the old Arlington track. There used to be a horse track there that was owned by the group out of Kentucky. They bought it. First, when I read that, I didn't realize that this had been kind of going on for a bit. But first, can you imagine the Chicago Bears not playing at Soldier Field?
It is a little different, but you got to either tear it down and rebuild it or make a new place out in the suburbs.
They've been there since the early 70s when they moved from Wrigley Field. Soldier Field's been remodeled, I believe, in the early 2000s. One of the sticking points, and this is something that is going to play huge sway in the future, is the Bears want to have on-site gambling.
Ooh.
They want to have a kiosk. They want to have everything in the building. It appears that because Chicago owns the building, the city of Chicago owns Soldier Stadium, and they lease it back to the Bears, the city of Chicago wants nothing to do with gambling. So it gives you an idea of the value that the gambling dollars will bring into the franchises. I thought up until I saw this signing that this was the leverage that every professional team holds over their city. That, if you don't, we're going to move someplace else. At least they're not talking about leaving Chicago. But I can't imagine a world where you're driving to Arlington Heights to watch the Bears play instead of driving downtown, getting on the loop, getting downtown, feeling the lake winds coming off and playing in Soldier Field. It sounds like the Knicks negotiating to get out of Madison Square Garden for a better deal and you name the suburb, head out. They're heading to Connecticut to play the Knicks game because they got a better gambling deal. It just doesn't feel right, but it gets the feeling this is going to happen.
You bring up the gambling, which sort of makes a little sense with Churchill Downs being involved in it, as that's a popular racing site for horse racing. The Bears have played at Soldier Field since 1971 and have a lease that runs through 2033. The stadium holds 61,500 fans, the smallest capacity in the NFL. Soldier Field underwent a $690 million renovation after the 2001 season that forced the Bears to play home games at the University of Illinois in the 2002 season. So I guess this $197 million is just to buy that area in suburban Chicago. And then, maybe sometime as we get closer to the end of that lease in 2033, probably sooner rather than that particular time, they say, okay, now we have the ability to spend $3 billion on a new stadium. Probably not going to be a SoFi $5 billion stadium. Probably not going to be as fun as Jerry World, but it's going to be fun.
It'll be
you think it's going to be okay.
There is a keeping up with the Joneses mentality, and the fact remains, you build a beautiful stadium, you get a Super Bowl. So if they're going to build a stadium, it's going to have a retractable roof, because Chicago will never host a Super Bowl in an open stadium in February.
No.
So you expect it to look a lot like SoFi, a lot like the new Viking Stadium, a lot like Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta, the most recent new buildings that got the stadium. I didn't think it could happen, but I do believe that the lure is enough for them to move away from downtown Chicago. It'll be a strange drive to Arlington Heights to go watch a game instead of heading down to Wrigley. But gambling money in a pretty facility, that's enough. I guess if I'm a Bear fan, I'd be down.
Yeah, Chicago's such an urbanized area that it just expands so much that kind of makes sense to go away from the heart of the city into where just a lot of the population really is these days.
You take the L, you go downtown, you watch, you go to Wrigley, you go downtown to watch Wrigley, and you go downtown to watch the Bears. You go to the South Side to go watch the White Sox. You go downtown to watch the Bears. To go northwest or wherever, it just doesn't feel right, but you know, when the Detroit Lions moved all the way out to Pontiac, you know, it's kind of the same idea. They'll go if you build it.
Yeah, that's true, and that's the case here. As we'll have to keep an eye on that one with Rudy J being a Bears fan for R&R in the morning. And headline 0, this one had a lot of attention taken away from it because of the Ben Simmons saga, but Kristaps Porzingis reportedly did want to trade from the Mavericks, but he feels like a fresh start after the coaching change, having Jason Kidd, who has been known as more of a player's coach, coming in to lead Dallas.
Luka doesn't like Kristaps.
No.
Kristaps does not like Luka. And just because you got a new coach doesn't mean you're going to be over that. Kristaps got to stay healthy and hit shots. If they do that, then Luka will love him. If he doesn't, Luka's going to want him gone. That's a lot of money tied into a 7'4" jump shooter.
Carlisle gets what he wants and goes back to Indianapolis, as that was sort of an agreement between Mark Cuban that, hey, our franchise players aren't too much in love with you anymore. He's a bit too much of an old school coach, I suppose, but that's a downgrade in coaching right there, as Carlisle won them that championship. He was a major part of that lightning in a bottle 2011 team, and I thought that he kept them from bottoming out, as Dallas really only had that 1 year where they had the 5th overall pick and were able to trade up to number 3 to get Luka. Otherwise, he kind of kept them a little bit relevant in all of those old Nowitzki years where he was playing on $5 million contracts. He should have left. Good.
What do you think of Porzingis? What's your opinion of this guy?
He has not been the same since the ACL injury in New York, and he really is injury prone, but Unicorn is an appropriate name because he's that 7'3", shot blocking, 3-point shooting, can score kind of player. He was on his way to being a franchise, I'll be a third team type of guy that could be a piece, a centerpiece to a championship team if you were to get somebody that complemented him well on the perimeter. Somebody like a DeMar DeRozan would have really been good for him, but they never really got that in New York. And then he just was so tired of the Knicks that he asked them to be traded. And the Knicks in 45 minutes were like, okay, we're sending you to Dallas. And that did not work out too well for the Knicks as it stands.
He's a stiff. The best thing that ever happened to the Spurs is the collusion that they got caught trying to get him and they never got him. He is a waste of space and money. Overpaid, over-egoed, not nearly worth it.
Man, tell me how you really feel.
Let him. The fact that he wanted to go and they kept him, dude, you should have helped him out the door.
The funny thing is, I know you think there's something to it, and it's very possible. This was almost James Dolan thinking that the Spurs were telling him, hey, ask for a trade. But as it was reported by the man Woj himself, Porzingis gave them a list of teams he wanted to go to. None of them were the Spurs, and Dolan's like, the Spurs are up to this. They knew that he would give a list.
We flew to Serbia to see the dude, man. We had emissaries in his home country.
He's Latvian.
We flew to Latvia. We had Spurs in the country. That's been proven too. We might not have colluded by the letter of the law, but there's a reason why the Knicks and the Spurs dislike each other. We go back to Marcus Morris. Well, we go back to Morris and that weird deal that happened. The undercurrent all began because the Spurs tried a little bit too hard to get Porzingis. Is the best thing that ever happened to us that we did not get that slouch. I'm not impressed with that dude at all.
It turned out that the winner of that trade was Tim Hardaway Jr., as he ended up being the best player in the situation following. Dennis Smith was the other big key player. If I'm not mistaken, the Mavericks do not have a first-round pick until 2025 as a result of that trade. And I want to say maybe that was also included in the Trae Young deal. I'll have to look into what that is. But, yeah, the Mavericks, they've gone all in on the Porzingis Doncic duo. And I was listening to a podcast with, I think it was Brian Windhorst back at the beginning of the offseason. And he said, it's not the ideal situation where your two stars aren't buddy pally, but they can sort of get along with each other.
They
just
people I don't like.
Yeah,
That's fine. As long as I know you got my back on a court or on the field, we can agree not to like each other. I don't ever have to talk to you. But I think that after they made that deal, the moment he got hurt again, Carlisle was screwed. There's a reason why he's now unemployed, and I think it'll go back to the Porzingis deal. The unicorn, it's an apt name for a lot of different reasons.
And you know what? It's potential that will probably go unreached because he has not proven to be that all-NBA third-team guy in Dallas that they were hoping to acquire. Maybe this is a resurgence under Jason Kidd, but Dallas fans, I wouldn't get your hopes too high.
Luke ain't gonna give him the ball.
No, probably
Luka's
not
gonna give him the ball. So good luck with that,
man. They don't have 4 good players on that roster. I see, and you can say what you want. They have the best 2 players among the Spurs in the roster. Well, I don't know. Maybe Porzingis wouldn't be the best player on the Spurs roster, but
no.
On paper, for the moment, he is. I would say that I would much rather have the Spurs situation than the Mavericks situation.
I'd rather have Luka than the entire Spurs roster. You give me Luka, I can find an answer.
Well, see how that's working for Dallas with maybe the second best player on that team being Tim Hardaway Jr., obviously, but also Jalen Brunson, Maxi Kleber.
They're in dire straits. I'm not saying that roster is solid, but I'd rather have that roster with Luka than a bunch of maybes.
Give me Boban. Boban can be the second unit leader on that team. All righty. Hey, we do have a Tech Talk update. If you are an Apple fan in the market for a MacBook, I'm going to tell you why you should wait just another month or 2 before you make your decision on your purchase. Here on Halftime, stick with us as it's almost full time and you get off to your second half of the day. Thank you for tuning in. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Get the latest scores and more from high school football online anytime at 210varsity.com. Sponsored by the San Antonio Express News. San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM. ESPN AM 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Both Texas MLB teams picked up wins Tuesday night. In Houston, the Astros needed 2 runs in the bottom of the 9th to get a 4-3 win over Tampa Bay. At Globe Life Park, most of the scoring was done in the second inning. The Rangers took a 4-2 lead and then scored an insurance run in the 7th for a 5-2 win over the Angels. UTSA running back Sincere McCormick was named the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award Player of the Week following a 42-carry, 184 yards, and 3 touchdown performance in the Roadrunners' win over Memphis on Saturday. This is the second time McCormick has gotten the weekly award. And the SEC announced the Texas A&M versus Alabama game will start at 7 p.m. on CBS in College Station on October 9th. For San Antonio Sports Star, I'm Carl Schoening.
Jason Minix here for Alamo Water Softeners. Whether your home is a new build or an older home, Alamo Water Softeners has a water treatment bundle with special pricing to give your home the highest quality water treatment available. Choose from several bundles, including the Premier Whole Home Bundle. Get a free standard gas or electric water heater when you purchase a select top-of-the-line water softener, plus 1 filter and reverse osmosis system. Go to AlamoWaterSofteners.com. That's AlamoWaterSofteners.com.
This is Rob Thompson for BetUS.com. My sportsbook, it should be your sportsbook. You ask why? Well, BetUS has been America's favorite sportsbook for over 25 years. You need a sportsbook with integrity and longevity. You need to know that you're going to get paid, and that is BetUS.com. You also need a sportsbook that has everything you want to lay money on: live betting, MMA, golf, and everything else, including all those great prop bets. The number you need is 1-800-79-BET-US. Call them and say KZDC and get 200% in bonuses. That's KZDC. BetUS, where the game begins.
Here in Texas, the heat is relentless. The storms are serious, but the hail is insane. Texas weather doesn't do anything halfway, and neither should your roofer. Your roof protects your home and your family. So whether you need a simple repair or a roof replacement, metal or composition, you need a roofer you can trust. That's Stevens Roofing. They are reputable, reliable, and have always been your local roofer. Call Stevens Roofing today for a free estimate at 210-785-0994 or go to stevensroofing.net.
Hey y'all, I'm Grant Pinkerton of Pinkerton's Barbecue in downtown San Antonio. We only smoke prime meats with a blend of post oak and mesquite. Come see us for some of those giant beef ribs, tender brisket, and a cold big red. We have a Texas-sized bar, great selection of bourbon, and tons of local beers. I love sports, so we have plenty of screens to watch them on. We're open Wednesday through Sunday for lunch and dinner or until we sell out. Come early, come hungry, and stay late.
Welcome to Texas, where the sun is beaming down and can damage the interior of your car, even in lower temperatures. Unless you go to Mother's Window Tint, home of the Tint and Alarm Special, where you can also buy a new car stereo since 1984.
1984? That's impressive.
Mother's Window Tint has tinted cars and trucks to stop the sun from damaging their interiors. Texans like dark privacy window tint. Come to Mother's and get some. Legal and guaranteed a lifetime. Remember to protect yourself and your family. Buy an alarm today from Mother's. Starter kill, remote start, GPS locator, 24-hour live monitoring. Save $100 on the tint and alarm package of your choice. San Antonio and Austin stores. motherswindowtint.com.
Remember, do it at Mother's and save!
At CDW, we get that even the biggest jobs need to fit on your lap.
It's true. My entire workday happens right here on my lap.
And you can get it done faster with the performance and security of a device configured by CDW and powered by the Built for Business Intel vPro platform.
Nice. Are you done yet, Mommy? More time for story time.
An even better use of your lap. IT orchestration by CDW. People who get it. Find out more at cdw.com/Intel client.
Injuries happen, so if you twist, pull, pop, or snap something, you need Dr. David Espinosa at TSAOG Orthopedics. Dr. Espinosa treats all non-surgical orthopedic injuries and has same-day and next-day availability. Telemedicine services are also available. There is no reason to be in pain. If you are hurting, visit Dr. David Espinosa at TSAOG Orthopedics. Learn more at TSAOG.com. That's TSAOG.com, or schedule your appointment by calling 210-804-5490.
Hi, everyone. Michael Kielbasa with Kielbasa Smoked Meats here. When you bring a package of our smoked sausage home, keep it simple. It's handcrafted in small batches and fully cooked, so you can just heat it up and enjoy. My favorite way to eat it is on a bun with mustard or wrapped in a tortilla. Try some from a store near you today, and if it's not the best you've ever tasted, I'll give you your money back. Guaranteed. Find Kielbasa at a store near you today.
Saturday afternoons mean one thing: college football. Hear games from all Power 5 conferences all season long, every Saturday from San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
This is Rudy J on your home for Cowboys football, San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN 1250 and 94.5 FM.
Thank you, Rudy. Oh, we're sending into the second half of your day with some good music played by Edwin back there, making us sound good. I'm Carl Schoening. He's Rob Thompson. James Pudger joins us in studio, but he's not going to talk because unless you are in the market for a new MacBook, Pudge, I don't know if you are. I know you and I have talked off air.
I'm in the
Rob,
market for a MacBook.
The new MacBook Pros will be announced sometime in October. This comes from MacRumors.com. Apparently, there is going to be a new beta version released soon of Mac OS called Monterey. It was released earlier this week, and it includes a pair of new entries into the list of display resolutions for the system that currently...
I don't know what that means.
Okay, so like 1920 by 1080 or 4K resolution, right? So currently, your screen might be a 1980 by... 1920 by 1080 screen on yours. The new MacBook resolutions are going to be listed according to this beta that came out: 3456 by 2234 Retina and 30 to 3024 by 1926 Retina, which is just around 4K, a little lower than 4K, but those are pretty big resolutions. Yet they do not fit any current MacBook Pro out. So thus, the rumors of a 14-inch MacBook Pro and a 16-inch MacBook Pro, which have been kind of circulating around, are almost confirmed by Apple themselves with this beta. So I am really looking forward to and excited about the October M1X chip release. Oh man,
the M1X chip.
I'm gonna have to save up. If you're interested in buying the M1 right now, you're probably already future-proofed enough. But maybe you wait a couple months to see what the M1X will do.
I need an M1X. I don't know what that does, but it sounds cool.
It's pretty cool, and you're gonna love the way it runs. Hey, thank y'all for spending your midday break with us. Maybe I gave you a little bit of Apple news if you're an Apple head. I'm Carl Schoening. He's Rob Thompson. Thanks to Edwin for running the show. This is Halftime. The Blitz coming up at 4 with Jason Minix. I'm Carl Schoening. Thank y'all for listening to San Antonio Sports Star, ESPN AM 1250, 94.5 FM.
Friday nights mean one thing. San Antonio Sports Stars High School Football Game of the Week. Powered by Hill Electric. Jason Minix and Kevin Brock have the call each week beginning at